That which does not kill me only makes me stronger.
You are now listening to the Lifelong Learning Defined podcast with your host, George Valenzuela.
This is education coach George Valenzuela. Welcome to the Lifelong Learning Defined podcast, where I provide all educators, whether instructional leaders or teachers, tips on how to be their best both personally and professionally. Now let's get into it. We're here today on the After Hours Weekend edition of the Lifelong Learning Defined podcast for self-improvement with my very good friend, Josh Tovar. Josh is a very well-known educator on social media. He's a podcast host and the principal at Memorial Pathway Academy. I'm so happy you're here, brother. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for inviting me. It's a joy. Hey, we finally connected here on your awesome podcast. Josh Tovar, principal, Memorial Pathway Academy, Garden ISD, Garden USA, here with a lifelong learning podcast. I love it, George. Just so you all know, at the very beginning, this guy likes to give flowers at the end. I like giving flowers right now. This cat is on fire. I am so hooked into what he brings to the table as an elder guy. I've been doing this for 32 years, Jorge. And the whole thing ultimately is, how do I become better? And you know, being in this field, it's hard to change someone with a trajectory of years of service. And let me tell you, you bring a lot of clarity, a lot of individualized steps on how self-improve with thinking about family, thinking about the Lord, thinking about entrepreneurship, thinking about all these things. And it makes me self-reflect. Take out that mirror, as I always ask my Jaguars at our campus, self-reflect on how to become the better version of ourselves. So today's conversation with you and myself is nothing but we'll be on fire, but ultimately something to improve me as an educator. So thank you for having me here.
Hey, Josh, I appreciate that. Typically on this show, I'm the one interviewing, but I kind of felt like you're interviewing me now. I do want to say, Josh, you're an elder. I respect my elders. There's a lot of people in education I feel are responsible for me being where I am now. I don't take those things lightly. I appreciate you, brother. I think that more people should be like you because you're always giving flowers. You're always uplifting us. You're the kind of person that I strive to be. So thank you so much.
Appreciate that. Thank you. This is a tough field. You know, after it was always a hard field, like Jimmy Casa says, and I saw that he was just your recent guest. It was always difficult. And Rona pretty much just discovered where our serious flaws were in. And you know what? The number one thing is that we're not in the math business. We're not in the science business. We're not in the English business. We're in the people business. And if we don't uplift each other through these troubling times, this money crisis that we have across the United States, this emotional gap that we have with these kids, there's still a ripple effect from Rona. And we're going to have it for years because they sat out for 2 years. So there is a gap. If we don't support each other in the classroom, the chaos will continue. So it's crucial that we listen to each other. We reach out during social media, via text. Hey, good morning, Jorge. I wish you nothing but the best of the day. We need to have those inspirational moments. And that is the fire that we need as educators because we're in the best profession, the profession that creates all the other professions, education.
Me visiting classrooms every week, and I know you run your own school, you realize that the kids a lot of times don't want to be there, especially the older kids. In elementary schools, we still got them from what I'm seeing. But in the middle and high schools, it's harder and harder. We're getting teachers from non-traditional pathways, lots of career switchers. And then like you said, Corona, like we got people that came to us online during the pandemic. And maybe all they got were some textbooks and lectures in the pre-service program. I'm not sure. I can't go into a professional development training and not acknowledge that we have to show people how to build rapport with students. If students aren't happy there, a lot of times it's because they don't see themselves in the curriculum. And what I mean by that is that their interests, the things that they like to do, their future aspirations, what and how they learn, which this is all in literature, by the way. This is all in the research, which shows that this is what kids are looking for. When these things are not reflected along with the content and the things that we have to teach, then we have chaos, right? We have to show people, hey, it's a balance. You got to meet people where they are. If you look in the literature, the behaviors that we need to see in young people in order for them to learn successfully is achievement. They have to have little successes, engagement, motivation, and attendance. And if they don't come to us with all these behaviors already intact, we have to help them develop it. That doesn't mean that we're lowering expectations, that the rigor is now lower. No, you meet people where they are. I love that about you because you're always inspiring, always motivating. And honestly, in 2024, That's what people need.
It's so true. And just the example that you gave, George, is at Memorial Pathway Academy. Every single last year since I've been there, I was hired at the close of when Trump closed the schools for Corona across the United States. I had not much of an engagement with that type of audience. I was used to a big Texas school with 2,500 kids, and I transitioned over to Dallas. And this school have kids from Pakistan. So hey, listener out there in Iowa, listener in New York, you're facing this, and I see it in the news. You got kids from all over the world coming to your schools, and you have this exodus from education. You've got all these educators tapping out, retiring because they don't want to put up with all this stuff. It's crucial. And let me let you know, sure, we have our issues at Memorial Pathway, but they're minor. Because ultimately what we do is that we need to be the Linus blanket. You know that little blue blanket from the Peanuts cartoons? We need to provide them the comfort because it's hard to leave that country. I was one of those. I was an immigrant to this country. And let me tell you, it's very scary. And the brain research tells you, as Jorge always tells you, it's fight or flight. And a lot of these kids, when they don't want to, they're not engaged. They're not cared about because kids don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And if you don't engage those kids with love first, they're going to tap out because they don't know. They've been taking care of cows literally all their lives. How do you expect them to learn A squared plus B squared equals C squared? How do you provide, hey, when Bloom's and Maslow meet, Maslow's always going to punch you in the mouth. Just like Mike Tyson also said, everyone has a great plan until
they get rocked.
They get punched in the mouth. Hey, so educator in Nevada, you've never had EB students. You might have the best lesson plan. You might have the best pair deck activity or Kahoot. But if those kids don't dig you, if those kids don't feel the love, that lesson is out the toilet. Let me tell you right now, you have to engage them with love. That way they know, hey, ahí está el amor. There is the love. That educator loves me, so I'm going to walk on fire for you. If the kids know that you love them, they will love you back and will walk on fire. They will go through walls because they know you got their back.
I have to give a shout out to my sister, Rhonda Simley, soon to be Dr. Rhonda Simley in Maryland in PG County, Wirt Middle School. I did a lot of work with her over the years. The refugee students from Afghanistan, I was so impressed by her. In Ramadan, she would make sure that they can pray. Everything that they need is taken care of. She made an environment where the American children and foreign children are all on the same page. Everyone gets along. Everyone supports those babies that need our support. And it's a safe space. And that's what you just made me think of her and her school. We have to make safe spaces for all students. There's a lot of stuff in the news. There's a lot of things, and you don't have to agree or not agree with which side, but children are children. And it just burns me up. It burns me up to see how some children from other countries get labeled, get typecasted, and they're expected to assimilate and not integrate. You have to integrate. You have to allow people to hold on to part of who they are, which we call cultural assets. But you have to allow people to do that. If you don't, then they're marginalized. They don't feel that they belong. They don't feel that they have a voice. And then they're in our classrooms and they're not learning. And the purpose of school is to learn. If you're not safe, if you don't feel welcome, then you're not going to learn.
That makes us a better educator. When I arrived to North Dallas from El Paso's an enclave a special enclave. That little city is connected with Ciudad Juarez, Chihuahua, where I was born. And it's all Mexicans. It's all. Anywhere in that area, you could talk Spanish. The white people talk Spanish. African Americans from Fort Bliss talk Spanish. Everyone talks Spanish in that little enclave.
It's like that in other parts of the country. I work at Summit School in Illinois. There are schools that I work at. Everyone speaks Spanish. Right?
Yeah, exactly. But when I arrived in North Dallas, that was a learning experience for a whole year. I didn't know El Salvadoreño, Nicaragüense, Colombiano, Venezolano. We all spoke Spanish, number one, at different speeds. We all use different versions of Spanish. So I would hear a word and I'm like, hey, that's a bad word. And like, well, not in my country. That was such, and it has been such a great knowledge acquire for me to hear the different dialects of Spanish. But like you just said with your sister, we have our Arab kids that are learning Spanish now. And when they get off the bus, and I greet him on and off the bus, depending, hey, bonjour, salam alaikum, buenos dias, si ciao, whatever their language is. Now my Arab kids are like, buenos dias. I love it. That is why I feel so appreciative of the team members that I have at MPA, because they've created. One person cannot create that. It's a family that creates that to bring the Jaguars together to thrive as a learning community. So I agree with what you're saying 1,000%, brother.
If you're watching this on YouTube or listening on Spotify or iTunes, please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the like button and share this episode with your family, friends, and colleagues who are interested in self-improvement through lifelong learning. And now for a word from one of our sponsors.
We had the pleasure of listening to George this morning on project-based learning, and he shared his story that his aunt encouraged him to go into education. And she was absolutely right. He is so talented at sharing information in a way that's easy to digest and is inspiring to go back and actually implement and make change.
So my takeaway is that Mr. Valenzuela was very inspiring. He was very motivational and helped me to think about a new way of getting my teachers excited.
When I set out to do a workshop, my key deliverable is energy. And this momentum is used to make connections, inspire, educate, and ultimately transform the audience, so that they're compelled to take that same energy back to their schools and communities. And although we have fun, we tackle the hard topics of today, like educational policy, pedagogy for improving curriculum and instruction, and empowering today's students by connecting our work to the needs of the workforce. So please consider Lifelong Learning Defined for your next keynote, workshop, or conference, and overall instructional and educational coaching needs. My name is George, and I hope to connect with you soon.
We would love to have him come and do some work with us and help us be a little more successful and help our students to be more successful.
I move around a lot of schools, and we're seeing a huge disconnect. A lot of teachers that have come from non-traditional pathways, especially in the past few years. And so just interactions, expectations is really the first step. All of my teachers, raise your right hand, and please repeat after me. I promise that I will speak positivity into my students. All of my administrators, all my directors, all my principals, all my coordinators, raise your hands, please, your right hand, and repeat after me. I promise that I will speak positivity into my faculty and staff. Thank you. For the audience, I came in here with a plan. I always have a plan. I got my script ready to go. I have the questions that I want to ask Josh. We are 10 minutes in, 12 minutes in actually, and I haven't even started that. I think we'll stay off script. It is Saturday after hours. Josh, I want to get off education for a while. Folks that know me know that lifelong learning is not just the name of my company. It's not just my brand. It's my lifestyle. I'm always trying to be at my best professionally and personally. I have accepted that my life will forever be uncomfortable. There's times that I don't want to work out. There's times that I don't want to eat right. I don't want to rehearse for any of my keynotes or any of my presentations. I don't want to write, but I make sure that I do it every day because I stop caring about my feelings. I'm focused on my outcomes. You talk about God a lot. And I have a buddy, his name is Tobias, and I know he's watching, listening. What up, T? And he said to me, you think that God cares about how you feel? There's 10 commandments. You think he cares how you feel about these? No, he wants obedience. And it hit me, You hear people all the time say, oh, if I don't feel good, I'm not going to do that. Okay, that's fine. But what about your goals? If you have a goal, in order for you to achieve your goal, you have to be uncomfortable. The price of transformation is being uncomfortable. Are you not going to work that day because you don't feel it? Oh, I don't feel good. I don't want to do that. No, you think about the outcome and how great you're going to feel and how positive it'll be and how great everything will be at the end and not in between or not before. I took what my friend said And now I try not to look at my feelings. I try to look at how do I want to feel after I'm done. And that's an important thing. I recently turned 49 years old. And Josh, I do know that we're going to die. Like, I get that. And I always say, hey, I'm actually ready to go, but I think that it'd be nice if I can meet my grandkids. Not for me, but for them. And to see my kids that are now emerging adults, see them be able to live without me. On my 49th birthday, I laid in my bed and I reflected, and my mortality hit me for the first time, where I thought about, okay, if you go soon, how are your relationships? This might sound mean, but I tell my friends all the time, the first time you have a major problem, let's talk about it. If you want to cry on my shoulder, that's cool. But the second, third time, we better have some solutions. The only people that I'm willing to get very emotional with right now is my wife and my kids. Nobody else. Make sense what I'm saying? Yeah.
100%.
Right. I thought about those relationships. And the one that's the hardest is my 18-year-old son. And not because we don't get along. It's because he's busy all the time. He's busy and I'm not cool anymore. He's at Gold's Gym and he's around these other guys and I'm not the cool guy anymore. I said to him, because I thought that he would like this. I'm like, hey, let's go to the Arnold Classic. I really want to see Arnold and I think it'd be fun. He's like, nah, Dad, I want to go to WrestleMania. I said, WrestleMania? You haven't watched wrestling in years. He goes, yeah, but that's my first love. So I went and got the tickets. I did not know that The Rock was going to be there, The Undertaker, John Cena, all the people that he grew up watching. And Josh, he was smiling, he was laughing, he was jumping up and down. And I realized this on the show. People have told me, you have to be interested in what your kids are interested in, not the other way around. Him and I agreed that moving forward, we will go to 1 or 2 events every year. And that's our thing. Well, anyway, I watch you online, brother, and I see that you already been doing this with your kids in college football for years. Please explain that.
And let me take 2 steps back. As I explained earlier, I used to run a big school in Texas, 2,500 kids. I used to run a little city, close to 3,000 daily. So, it takes a lot out of you. Thanks to the team members that I worked with, that school turned around from a D- to a B- in 3 years. It went from an 81% graduation rate to a 92% graduation in 3 years. So that takes a lot of time to make sure that happens, because you need to be visible. If you want change in a school, the lead chair needs to be visible in every activity to have conversations, sometimes awkward, but to have conversations. That avoids the major fires. But you know what? I've been raising other people's kids for years. I was at their baseball events and the parents weren't there. I was at their choir events and their parents weren't there. As you could see on social media, I post everything on social media about my school, whatever that school is. And I don't like using the term my at all, but the school that I'm working with and supporting. One day, I was driving up to a little Mexican market in the morning, and I got a call from Dallas and saying, hey, there is a school open. Are you willing to move from El Paso to Dallas? You still got to interview. You still got to go through the process. And if you're selected, well, we think that you're the right fit for that school, which is where I'm at right now. I thought about it and I go, okay, when does it close? Oh, today at 2 p.m. You see, the Lord placed that on my shoulder. That was telling me something, because I had just had a baby. So here I'm looking at forsaking my children for other people's kids. So, hey, administrator out there, are you willing to forsake the hard work that you just did 3 years in a row? Are you willing to give out on all that blood, sweat, and tears that you did to focus now on you? Because sometimes, and you know this, George, you know that in public education, sometimes the loyalty does not work both ways, especially from central office. Especially from central office, because they have their own game plan. And sometimes their game plan does not match up the educator's game plan. And the only person that loses there is the educator.
Right.
So I submitted my application. That's when Trump closed the schools. I got hired by the board that week before, and I was running the school from El Paso in Dallas. And that's where the change happened. Now, for us, I mean, no disrespect to people who lost family in Rona. I mean, no disrespect to people that were heavily affected. But the closure brought our family together. They had never seen Dad there for dinner. They had never seen Dad there to take walks as a family. They had never seen that, because my priority, my family was number 3. If you want a successful school, your family will be probably like 3 or 4. Your family's not number one. I had to make a decision, and I made that choice.
For all the folks out there listening, those aspiring administrators, the reason why I didn't go into administration in a school, I went in central office, is because when you're a principal, your children and your family come second. That doesn't work well when you have little children. So I stayed in the classroom on purpose, and I said, I'll become a principal later on. However, I got invited into central office. In central office, if you're a specialist, if you're a curriculum person, you can still have a life. Yes, it's a lot of work, but you still have a life. So for folks that are interested in this type of work, think about your family and think about your children, because your children have a long time to be old, but a small window to be young. Josh, go ahead,
Amen.
brother.
Amen. Exactly. And so I would miss my kids' birthdays because I was in an area playoff. I would miss my kids' performance at an international school in El Paso because I would be going at a whatever championship tournament. I had to be seen there. And
Right.
so this opportunity, I have no accountability with state requirements. I have no extra duty whatsoever. Only my parent nights once per semester. So now that I had a brand new kid, a brand new baby, that was where my focus was going to be. And from there, we've evolved. For sure, we make consistency going to church. All I could do is making sure that I provide them the Lord's word. That's all I could do. From there, it's what they do because it's called free will. Free will after that, like you said, George, it's what we establish as dads. It's what we establish as parents. All we could do is lay the foundation. In the end, free will take over. Then we started seeing things that they like. I don't believe, just being at that point, the 20-something years in education, I saw so many parents push stuff on kids that we learn being on this side. We learn how kids react when they get pushed hard. You will play football. I played football. You will do this because I did this. And you know what?
You will go to this university. Yeah.
Yeah, you will go to university. A lot of kids are rebel. So since that moment, I've always said down to my kids, I go, if the best thing that you could give me, mijo, if the best thing you could give me are D pluses, and I know that that's you're working with merit, I love you. Got you, bro. We'll find. If the best thing you could give me is an A, then I expect that A. Because that's what you're telling me. I will not tolerate you falling back. All right, if you're going to try acting, my son is an actor. He likes trying. All right, then you stay with it. I'm not pushing you to do anything. You stay with it. My son is in football. You know what? That cat, he's out there. He's supporting them coaches. He's a freshman. You know what freshman ball is. You know, they go get the water bottle. They go pick up. He's taking pictures of the kids. You know what? He's committed to it. And so much respect. Plus, he's in an early college as a freshman. Let's go. Wow. I take away responsibilities from him at home because obviously the curriculum is different at an early college. But then what do you like? So my boy likes football. 2 years ago, we went to go see, I like South Carolina. Long story. We're not going to go into that. So I took him to go see Notre Dame play South Carolina in Florida. We enjoyed it, the whole environment of that. My middle boy, he likes listening to the music that I like. 80s rock will never go out of style. 80s rock. And so, you know, just the other day, we went to Tulsa, Oklahoma to listen to George Lynn.
Hold on, Josh. Look, y'all, I was born 1975. I grew up in the 80s. And growing up in the 80s, before rap music became really popular, became part of the mainstream, 80s rock was it. I do like that kind of music, I do admit. But I mean, Josh, there's nothing like hip hop, baby. Hey, come on now, Josh.
I knew you were going to say that. It's
been the number one music genre since Snoop and Dre hit back in 91. It knocked everybody out the frame, baby.
I ain't negating it. That's why you're wearing the power shirt. I see that. I see 50 Cent right there. I see it. I'm
a big fan of 50 Cent. 50 Cent.
I know.
50 Cent.
I know you are.
First, on that bookshelf, I have his books. How to Hustle Harder, and also The 50th Law. He talks about how he overcame his fear and anxiety for his business, because now he's moving in rooms where he doesn't look like anybody in the room. And now he's scared again, like when he was a kid. See, fear and anxiety is the same thing for everybody. It's the same emotion, but it comes from different places. It's different causes. And so he helped me understand that. And then when he talked about his business savvy, I mean, that's helped me a lot. Look, mixtape, album, and concert, article, book, and PD.
Perfect. Yeah,
just took the formula, and then he's got the TV show. He has a power universe. The power universe is a multiverse for folks that dabble in a certain career in New York and now parts of Chicago.
Specific career.
Pharmaceuticals. It's how I unwind on the weekends. It's a guilty pleasure.
It's just one of those where we enjoy the concerts, and then our contemporaries, the people that are 50 plus, they look at him and they're like, oh, I'm glad you're listening. They're, woo, some of my contemporaries, woo, they've really hit the wall, baby. But you know what? They enjoy seeing the youth. They enjoy seeing the youth out there. And then last year, I believe last year or the year before, TASSP in Texas, the conference, you need to present there. That's a big conference, just so you all know. That's our administrators conference for Texan Association and ASSP.
Oh, gotcha.
TASSP. It's over 2,000 administrators. You should apply for that. Present there. And right there, I heard Morris talk about the conflict between the races and how we could all be bonded through music. So he gave this example of Virginia Tech. He was hired to go speak. He's more of a corporate level speaker. And he said, never seen a bonding like I've never seen a bonding in Virginia Tech. So what happens is at the stadium, hey, educator, if you want to bond with your kids, especially if they're into football in California and in Arizona, do it. I did it, and I'm going back this year. So I could have ribs, meet George, and go see the game.
When you stop in Richmond, you got to hit me up then. Don't hit me up the day before. You hit me up the day before. I'm not spontaneous, bro.
I'll get you. You got to get them ribs. And what happens is that everyone starts doing their chant. I know SEC, just ACC, SEC, all these guys, they start doing a chant. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on? What's going on? Then it stops and they start Enter Sandman. Everybody starts
Metallica.
jumping.
Metallica, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Metallica.
Yeah, okay.
Everyone starts jumping. And you feel the darn stadium shaking. I'm talking about grandma, grandpa, everyone is jumping. Woo! Those goose pimples that you get right here? Woo! It's just so awesome. And then I turn around and I look at my boys. And just the mega event, they're just mesmerized. To me, as a papa, at that moment when I saw that, it's right here. So when I need a happy place, I remember their looks. As a papa, best thing I could see their joy, their happiness.
That's what I saw in my kid when The Undertaker and Triple H, John Cena came out, and The Rock. And I saw his face, and I haven't seen that face since he was a little kid. I said to myself that this moment is priceless, and we got to recreate this because I'm 49 now. I'm running out of time, right?
Agreed.
I thought about you immediately. I thought about you, and I said, when I get Josh on the podcast, because I have a lot of people that want to be on the show, but there's certain people that I know that I want to get on. There's certain things that I want to talk about. And so this was the thing that I wanted to talk with you about, because I know there's somebody out there listening that needs his information. They need to understand this is the methodology. This is the system. This is the framework. Take what they like, hang out with them, do the road trip, get the food. This is the framework. This is the recipe. And now for a word from one of our sponsors. If you're a STEM and PBL teacher like me, you're always on the lookout for new project ideas and resources. You know George does PBL, and I'm telling you, look no further than Smart Lab. Smart Lab really has a fresh take on STEM and PBL. I'm proud to be a partner, and they sponsor the podcast. But just don't take my word for it. Check out what other educators are saying about Smart Lab.
When students enter into Smart Lab, they are allowed to think outside of traditional norms.
It gives them a lot of agency. They feel empowered and important. I think that's one of the biggest benefits of the Smart Lab environment and the way the project process is set up.
Smart Lab becomes this place where they can do those things and have the time and space to communicate better and even deal with social emotional stuff. They're having a bad day. A Smart Lab's a place where we can change the pace of what they're learning to match their mental needs for the day. And that comes back tenfold later on when they want to be there and they want to learn and they want to do stuff and they feel safe and they feel like they can get the things they need.
That's one of the big benefits of being in more of a collaborative environment is it makes you have to work. It makes you have to be accountable.
Please look in this episode's show notes for a link to connect with Smart Lab.
And then I'll share something with you, George. I shouldn't be talking to you right now. I should not be talking to you at all because you would have never met me. In 2016, I died with my middle son, the one that likes rock. We
Oh,
died.
wow.
Well, he survived. We were in a lake in Arizona, and we got hit with a storm real quick. It came out of
Ooh.
nowhere. I didn't understand that there were storms. We were on a kayak, and it flipped our kayak. My son drowned me because I was holding him up like this, but the waves were splashing on me. And my son obviously was scared, and he was trying to grab me, and he pushed me down on the water. I let go because I was taking in water.
Wow. Wow.
I remember sinking into the water, and then I remember saying, "This is how," and then everything went dark. The next thing I remember was a hand diving for me. I don't know what it was, a hand, and then I was on top of the water. It was still splashing ugly, and the only thing I remember saying was, "Where's my son?"
Oh,
But then I
man.
couldn't say anything else. So I was a beach whale. And I couldn't get on the water. I couldn't get off the boat. The whole point of it is this: hey, educator, if you faced death before, if you encountered obstacles before, but you face this kind of thing, either a loved one, either you've been in a bad car accident or whatever, really the problems that you have at work are not really problems. You should always put family first. And from that moment forward, anytime that I've had a fake power position, I always tell, can I leave? I gotta go this with my kid. Family first. Can I go? Family first. Can I? That event rearranged everything for me. I try to enjoy as much as I could. And it's one of those things, Jorge, that when you face death, I always ask myself the question that one of my mentors said, is this the hill I want to die on? Do I really want to get involved with that cheerleading mom and her yell at me? Is that worth it? Do I really care about that softball mom who refuses to do the fundraiser, but still wants the kid to go to the softball trip?
So interesting you say that. We talked about this offline. There's times that I want to tighten somebody up when I see them. I don't know if they think he must be like Mr. Rogers or something like that. No, it ain't no Mr. Rogers. I think about what you just said. Is this the hill that I want to die on? Is this what my life is really about? And it's not. These things are not important. The most important thing in life are relationships.
Exactly.
Our relationships. And it starts with family first.
That's the great thing about a great conversation is that's what triggers. I love it. And it's just that. So I tell you, educator out there that chooses to be in the main chair, there's a lot of things that we need to develop and self-reflect, because you take each adventure of your life that God has provided for you on your pathway, your career, and then the sum total of all your decisions take you to that moment, whatever it might be, success or non-success. And if you're not where you're supposed to be, then you know what? Some of those decisions were not the appropriate ones. Some of those battles that you died on are affecting you professionally. Some of the things that you chose not to jump off of that mountain and try to get your wings out and fly, that was your decision. The only thing that I can tell you right now, 32 years, I'm finishing 32. I've been at all grade levels, pre-K, and I've taught at master's level for future principals. I've done the whole gamut. And right now, one thing that I always hear over and over is, all those people you helped will not be at your deathbed. Only your family. All those people will not be in the ICU like I was in the ICU. My mom lived at Thomas Jefferson High School in Burgess. She was in education for 30 years. She bled in the brain. Again, things that I've experienced. I had to, respectfully to anybody out there, I'm not trying to trigger anybody, but I had to make the decision to pull the plug on my mom.
Wow.
She was there. I had to tell her in her ear, go, mom. We'll be okay. Go, mom. She was a fighter. Even at the end, she wouldn't stop. Tell me how many people from administration at Thomas Jefferson reached out to me or to my mom when she was in ICU. Zero. Maybe 3 teachers.
Yeah.
Nobody else. The only one that was by her bedside was her son. Nobody else. So when I say family first, educator, that means family first. Because all those kids that you inspired, all those kids that love you, they do not know that you're going to be ill or that you passed, because they've continued in their version of life. Remember, embrace and love your kids. Embrace that moment when Enter Sandman comes out. Embrace that moment when you get the pop, when you see John Cena. You know, that's what the rest of the
Yeah, that's what it is. It's called the pop.
That.
It's called the
They talk
pop.
about
Right.
and
Yeah.
when you have the pop that the light, hey, when you're about to see the Rolling Stones and they're 1,000 years old and the lights go out and then you hear da-na-na, start me up, pop. Enjoy the pop. Yeah, it's okay. Enjoy the pop at work because you get kudos there. You get but you know what the best pop is? When your kids look at you and they give you that hug here on the side and they say, I love you. That's the best pop that you could have out there as a dad because they're the ones that are going to be on your bedside.
Josh, this is the part of the show where I give you your flowers. My brother, I know that I have a great podcast. I listen back to it. I try to think about things that people need to hear that I hear in my spaces in schools, at my dinner table with friends, on the weekends. I try to put information that are going to be helpful. It's developed over the years where I know this is a good show. But you know how the algorithms work. The algorithms don't always push the information to who needs this information. And I understand that. I understand that I'm either going to have to pay for ads or some big platform is going to have to recognize mine before my show reaches the right people. In the meantime, I do my work. I rely on my friends, on my family to like and to share, and some of my contemporaries. Josh, not a week goes by that you don't promote my show and what I do. I want you to know I do not take that lightly. I really appreciate you, brother. It means a lot to me. You tag me every day on something. I feel like, man, I can't even show him the same love and respect that he gives me because you do so much of it. And I just want you to know that. I know I've texted you this, but I just want to tell you here in person because you show me love in person. I want everybody to know.
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
When you come to Texas, let's see each other and come on over to our home. And then after that, I'll treat you to some awesome Brazilian steakhouse. And then when I go see Enter Sandman again, we'll go to Buzz and Ned's and we get some of them pork ribs right there. Hey, the best. Take it from these fat cheeks there, America. The best pork ribs in the United States are in Richmond, Virginia, Buzz and Ned's. Take it from a fat guy. The best place.
What a perfect way to end the show. Let's put this in the universe. Josh, how can people contact you so you can speak at their conference, their school, their event, or just get on the podcast?
Reach out at X at MPA Go Jaguars, MPA Go or JT Spotlights 1. All my school stuff is on MPA Go Jaguars. Anything that's personal, that's mine, it's on JT Spotlights 1. Join us. We'll reach out. And just remember, you're not alone. In this profession, if you need someone to bounce stuff off of, let me know. I got your back. Iron sharpens iron.
That's it for this episode. Until next time, this is the Lifelong Learning to Find podcast.
Whether you're a teacher or administrator, you lead by walking alongside your students and your staff. You teach them what to do. You model for them. Let's say you're in a situation where you don't know what to do and you bring in a coach or a resource, you learn alongside them. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. Now, the second thing is this. Give your people feedback, not pushback. Whoever you push back on, whether physically or verbally, they're going to do it right back immediately. And if they're intimidated by our position, our status, they're going to do it behind our backs and ruin our programs. My guy. I want to leave you on this note. Trajectories can be changed. When I was in 10th grade, here's a snapshot of who I was in 10th grade. There's a rapper named Rakim. I'm not sure if you guys know about Rakim, but he used to say, it's not where you're from, it's where you at. And I played that on my headphones at 16 years old every day until I believed it. And I'm showing you this because I'm seeing versions of this throughout American schools. This is your reality of what you have to face. If I can do it, any kid can do it, but they have to work hard. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Lifelong Learning Defined podcast with George Valenzuela.